Hi and welcome to my review of the Anbernic RG35XXH, a terrible name for a fantastic device, and this is my first hands-on for a dedicated emulation device. But I've been into emulation for a very long time, and I've modded a lot of consoles like the PS Vita, 3DS, PSP, DSi, Wii, Xbox, but this is the first sort of handheld emulation device I've owned. So this is the RG35XXH, and it's a reshaped version of the 35XX Plus with the addition of these two little thumbsticks. Storage is handled by micro SD cards. This has got two slots. And you can buy it with a 64 gig or 128 gig. I bought the 128 gig model, and oddly enough, you get a 64 gig in the first slot and 128 gig in the second slot, and it's absolutely crammed with games. I was so surprised to find that there's about 5,000 ROMs for various systems when you buy this. I promptly removed them all. I like emulation, but I'm not into piracy, so any games you see on here will be ones that I own physically, and then I've downloaded the ROM and put them on here. So what can this little Anbernic emulation device do? Well, it can do Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo 64, Master System, Mega Drive, NES, SNES, Saturn, Dreamcast, PlayStation 1, Neo Geo, Naomi, and some arcade units. So really, this is a very powerful device. I was hoping that it would do PS2, but no luck so far. But it is an emulation device. It is based around something like RetroArch, so there is a possibility to add cores in and just switch this up a little bit. So let's take a look at the device physically. So we'll take a look at the buttons. The first thing that is different on this model is that it's got twin sticks, and to me they look like Switch Joy-Con sticks. They've got the same pattern on, and the D-pad is very raised. It's got a nice amount of travel. You've got your X, Y, A and B. You've got your two shoulder buttons, which are quite clicky. Some people don't like them being that clicky, but I think they work very well. And you've got your two trigger buttons, shall we call them, and they are next to it. So some people do like them there, and some people would prefer them down the back, but they're very easy to use, and they are slightly raised more than, well, the L1. So they're easy and comfortable to use. You've got your start and select. If we have a look around the rest of the device, on the left hand side you've got your volume rocker, which is recessed, so you can't really hit it accidentally. On the other side you've got a reset button and a power button, same with those, they are recessed. On the top you've got your headphone port. In the middle is a HDMI out port, two USB-Cs, one I think is for charging, and both of them can do, it says, if you look, I don't know if you can see that, but it says OTG, so perhaps you can plug an extra device in or an extra storage. And then you've got your function button, which we'll get to in a little while. On the bottom is, well, you've got your two speakers, so it's got stereo speakers, quite nice sound that comes out of this, and your two micro SD card slots. So that's a quick look over it. Actually, on the back, if we just take a peek, you've got these nice little sort of, well, they don't do anything, but they're grips. They really make it nice to hold. Your fingers kind of fit. So that's the buttons. And if we talk about the screen, it's I think it's a 3.5 inch screen. It's IPS. It's an absolutely amazing screen. Let's get this on so we can show you what the screen looks like. You've got your power LED light there, and you'll see it's a bit of a fingerprint magnet, but you'll see that there's an absolutely amazing looking screen. It is IPS, so you can view it in pretty much any angle. It doesn't take very long to turn on, and then we will get into the stock firmware, which I will talk about in a bit, but it is a emulation device. As far as I'm aware, it is sort of Linux based or Nix based, and there are a lot of different custom firmwares available. So if you're not happy with the stock firmware, you can go and download a Garlic OS, or you can download Batacera. There's lots of different interfaces that you can use, but for this video I'm going to be checking out the stock experience. I will at some point try out some of the other firmwares and let you know what I think of those. But this is the menu itself. So you've got your what they call a game room. You can pick then which SD card. Everything on mine is stored on the second one, and it will bring up a list of supported emulators, which does vary depending on which firmware or which menu you go into. So it says PSP, PS1, arcade, Neo Geo, that looks like some kind of cabinet for a Neo, MAME, Game Boy Advance, NES, SNES, Master System, Mega Drive, Game Boy Color, Game Boy, PC Engine, Neo Geo Pocket Color, Game Gear, WonderSwan. I actually prefer to use, or especially for this firmware anyway, if you go into the RetroArch, because that's what this is based on, and it just gives you a bit of a nicer interface. Then you can see all of the different supported systems, and if you don't have a ROM on your system in the right folder, then it won't show up on the menu. So what is this capable of? Well, it's got PSP, Dreamcast, PlayStation 1, Atari 2600, Mega CD, Mega Drive, SNES, Game Boy Advance, Master System, Game Boy Color, Game Boy, Nintendo DS, Sega Satin, N64, and some ports. And these are PC ports that have been ported across to this device. Like I said, all of these systems on here and all these games that I'm about to show you, I do physically own. So let's check out each individual system, and I'll give you my feedback on what I think, and you can see the performance from them. So we'll start at the top, because the first one is PSP. So let's check it out. You go into it. I've got FIFA 06, and we'll load up a bit of FIFA for the PSP. So the first thing you will notice when playing PSP games is the aspect ratio of the screen. The PSP had a wide screen, but this one doesn't. Now, performance can vary game to game, but you'll get a general gist of just how this handles. And the sound is decent. But you will notice that the screen is slightly squished because it's supposed to be on a wider screen. So it loads everything from an SD card, so it's going to be quite nippy. But there are no performance issues that I've experienced using PSP. And the audio
but the fans here won't take too kindly to a home defeat. It's still a match their team should win.
Is decent.
Away we go then. Now, will they go for each other's throats, or are we going to have a cagey opening? We're about to find out. Wins the ball and stops the run. Konchesky. Nice ball. Scattering run. Block the shot.
Right, so that is PSP. And because we were using RetroArch, it does use sort of individual emulators to pull it off. I think somewhere, I know you can in regular RetroArch, you can swap which emulator it uses. Not sure about the build on here.
Pressure on straight away, it's a corner.
Trying to get out of this now. Right, so like I say, it uses various emulators, and this one uses PPSSPP, a very popular PlayStation emulator, or PSP emulator. So that was PSP. Let's take a look at the next system. Actually, I'm going to leave Dreamcast because that is one I want to pay particular attention to. If we take a look at PlayStation, so this is PS1. There we go. And I've got a few games on here which I do own. So we'll take a look at a game called Resistance C12, or Final Resistance C12. A game that my son is very keen on. Performance for PlayStation 1 games is absolutely fantastic. A little bit of a spoiler alert for you there.
Okay, Vaughn, let's get down to business. We lost contact with the outpost some 5 hours ago. Now, the recon team we dropped in has gone missing as well.
So this is a third-person walking around kind of game, and it handles it absolutely fantastically. I've not had any slowdown or performance issues playing PlayStation 1 games. Okay, so we'll come out of that. We're now in the RetroArch menu. Close content. Remember, the buttons do sort of swap over depending on what you're doing. Next system to look at is Atari 2600. Now, I love the Atari, but you know it's going to perform well on pretty much whatever you do. Let's take a little look at Asteroids. So in this case, it uses the Stellar emulator. Actually so much easier to play on here versus my actual Atari. As much as I love the Atari, the little joystick can be really hard to use, but you can use the thumbsticks here. So you can see performance on that is, well, it's superb. So we'll come out of that. And we'll take a look at the next system, which will be Game Boy Advance. So I've got FIFA again for the Game Boy Advance. If you've seen my previous videos, you know that I collect a physical copy of FIFA for every system, just because I like to.
EA Sports, it's in the game.
And you have no issues. It's a Game Boy game, or Game Boy Advance game. It looks fantastic on the screen. Something that emulation has done very well, considering the poor screen quality that you had on the Game Boy Advance. Oh, and they've scored. So that is a quick look at Game Boy Advance performance. near perfect everything on that, but you do expect it. It's quite a low powered system. So the next system we're going to look at is Super Nintendo, and I think I might actually take a look at two different games for this. So my favourite game for the Super Nintendo, or one of my favourites, is Super Bomberman. And it's a 16-bit console. This device has no problems emulating it. It uses the SNES 9X emulator under RetroArch, which has been around for a very long time. And this is an absolute... There's nothing wrong with this at all. The emulation on it is absolutely perfect. And you've got to bear in mind, a lot of these consoles that I'm looking at here were designed to be played on a TV. So it can sometimes the screens can be a little small, but it does help in some ways, because it just makes the graphics look a little bit nicer. But performance wise, it does superb for Super Nintendo. And like I said, I'm going to do two games for the Super Nintendo, because I'm quite interested to see how it handles something with the Super Effects chip in. So if we have a look at Star Fox and see if that will run, one of the SNES games with the built-in sort of 3D chip. That was absolutely amazing at the time. Okay. Well, as you can see, that seems to have no trouble, and you can use the stick, which is a no problem at all. So yeah, it handles that. Actually, I've never played Star Fox with a stick before, and it just makes it so much easier. So that is Super Nintendo. So let's take a look at the next system, which is Mega Drive. So another FIFA game, FIFA 96 for the Sega Mega Drive. You don't expect to have any performance issues. I mean, this is a 16-bit game, so similar to Super Nintendo, its performance is going to be fantastic. Which you can see. It plays absolutely fine, there are no sound issues. The only issue is my terrible gameplay. Okay, so that is Mega Drive. And we'll take a look at what's next. Mega CD. So I do have a demo disc from the Mega CD. It's from Mega Power. It's a FIFA demo disc. But once again, although it's CD based, you don't really expect to have any issues. If something can handle PlayStation 1, then it's gonna handle these platforms. So the Mega CD was an add-on for the Mega Drive, brought a lot of full motion videos, lots of animation. Didn't really bring much else, if I remember rightly. You could even couple that with the 32X and have this absolutely sort of Sega tower. So we'll just get into a bit of FIFA demo. Loading times are pretty good, but that is Mega CD. So as you can see, still no performance issues. Plays absolutely fine. Okay, so let's take a look at the next system, which is Game Boy Color. So we'll do Game Boy first, and I'm not going to do FIFA this time. I'm going to do Tetris, just to break it up a little bit. So I love playing Game Boy games on modern hardware because the games are fantastic, but original screen, even on the Game Boy Pocket, is just poor. I do like playing Game Boy games in this kind of aspect rather than candy bar, and it's just an absolutely, look at that, that is crystal clear. The controls are spot on. You're not going to get performance issues from Game Boy games, and it's black and white, and it is truly black and white this time. So let's move it up a little bit and see what Game Boy Color games look like. Yeah, we'll take a look at a bit of Link's Awakening DX. I mean, look at that, that is... Have you ever seen Zelda look so nice? Okay, so that is Game Boy Color. The visuals of it just absolutely pop. I'm not going to go into some gameplay just to show you what it is like, but as you can see, it plays well. The audio is absolutely fantastic. So the next is DS. Now this is a very interesting port. It's the first time I've emulated DS successfully on something. So if we take a look, I'm going to do a bit of New Super Mario Bros. Now, this is a single screen device, and you're obviously with DS, it's got a dual screen, and it's not a touch screen either. So you have this little virtual stylus, which is not 100% ideal, but in all fairness, there aren't that many games that I rely on that use the stylus. But you might be sitting there thinking, well, where's the other screen? The R2 will allow you to swap between bottom and top screen, but if you use the L2, you can put it into sort of DS mode, where you've got top screen and bottom screen below each other, or you can flip them around so you can have them side by side. Like I say, it's not 100% ideal. And then you use your little stylus to play. And it's alright, but you do have to remember to switch the screens back. See, that is okay, but you can't really, it is quite small. Well, there you go. I've got this stupid intro for Mario, but it just shows you the performance. See, there you got your little stylus. So it's D-pad controlled, and that will disappear after a few seconds of inactivity. But it plays DS games absolutely superb. I think emulation speed is at full %. And for the most, you don't use the stylus for a lot of DS games. The one game that I do own that is going to probably prove a little tricky is GTA Chinatown Wars, because you do use the stylus a fair bit in that. So that is DS performance. Oh, and it uses the drastic emulator. So we'll get out of that. We will take a look at N64 next, and there is a very good reason why I've just skipped over Saturn. So I've got FIFA 64 for the N64. This is where things start to get a little bit heavy. It handles N64 absolutely fine. And graphically it looks absolutely superb, but you will start to notice the odd audio breakup or a little bit of choppy audio. But performance-wise, I think it's at full speed. It could well be a little slower. Now there are little options. This is RetroArch based, so you can go in and you can change all sorts of settings. I haven't really played with any of these at all, but as you can see, there's absolutely mountains of settings to change, and you can tweak performance. Like I said, this is pretty much stock out of the box. Right, let's get out of that. So that is N64. Plays fantastically. Maybe a little tiny bit of slowdown. But obviously that will also depend on the game and the settings that you're using for the game. We're going to take a look at Sega Satin. Now this is absolutely one of the consoles that is the most notoriously difficult to emulate for, and I've got FIFA 96. Because of the complicated way that Sega made the Sega Satin, it had 8 processors, and it rendered in quads rather than triangles. Development for it was really difficult, and even now emulation is still quite difficult. Now this is as far as I got with this on this particular device, this Anbernic. I couldn't get any further. I will at some point dive into it. It does work. Emulation is not fantastic for the Saturn, but yet again that could be there could be some settings to change. You could turn the frame skip off, but No, I can't get any further when trying to play Saturn games, or at least this Saturn game, and it is the only one I do actually own, so it's the only one I can put on here. So that leaves just about one more system to look at. So we've done all of those. I don't have a Master System game. I don't know why that folder is sitting there. But one of the main reasons I bought this is for Dreamcast. Now I own a Dreamcast with a fairly decent selection of games. As you can see here, all of these games I do actually own. And considering actually the Sega Satin emulation is very poor no matter where you go, it's quite interesting to see that the Dreamcast is emulated very well. So I'm going to take a look at Crazy Taxi. So the Dreamcast used more off-the-shelf components. It was a simpler system to develop for, and it shows when it comes to emulation. The Saturn was really hard for programmers and, by the looks of it, emulator developers. I love the Dreamcast. It's one of my favourite consoles, one of the most underappreciated consoles.
Hey, come on over, have some fun with It's party time, let's have some fun. Crazy Taxi. It's party time, let's have some fun.
Yeah, this is
3 crazy minutes.
near perfect emulation on a little tiny handheld device.
Go ahead and pick a car and driver.
I've always wanted a portable Dreamcast.
It's time to make some crazy money. Are you ready? Here we go.
I mean, it's absolutely amazing. The graphics look stunning. Crazy Taxi is a bit of a fast game, and this does not slow down or let you down at all. If I could actually play it. It even features Rumble, which is quite cool. There are no issues playing Dreamcast games. And I've played plenty on here. I've played Sonic Adventure, Soul Calibur, obviously Crazy Taxi. So that is a quick roundup of what systems this little device can handle. Obviously there are a lot of things that you can be done to it. There are different systems it can run, but these are just the games that I physically own. So what do I think of it? It is a fantastic device. It's got excellent build quality. I love the translucent clear. It does come in black, I think, or possibly white, but they also do a translucent purple, but I went for the clear one. I do like a bit of crystal tech, and its build quality is fantastic. The thickness of it is just great for the hands. All the buttons seem absolutely spot on. The screen is super crystal clear. It really makes games like the Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance and the Game Boy Color, all those sort of games really pop. I have had no issues with loading bits and pieces. It's a bit of a learning curve, I will give you that, especially if you use RetroArch, because RetroArch is a huge app which really is a front end for other emulators, and you have to tweak settings, and it's not a straight out of the box. It works perfectly, but it does give you the option for tweaking and changing things and trying to enhance performance. There we go. So that's that. I'm just going to quickly compare that to some other devices so you can get a sense of size. So let's start. This is my DSi. So you can see it's about the same size as a DSi, well, the bottom half anyway. Okay, if we then put that against a PlayStation Vita, which is probably more akin to what it is because you've got your twin sticks on both, your D-pad, and your face buttons, your shoulder buttons. So that's what it's like when you compare it size-wise to a PS Vita. It's a bit smaller, but it is a little bit chunkier. If I then stick that next to my Switch Lite, you'll see that it is quite a difference in size, a real portable, pocketable device. So one other cool feature that I like about this is that it does have Bluetooth. It's quite a feature-packed thing. It's got Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, but you can connect a wireless controller to it. So you have to go into the settings, and you go into the network settings, Bluetooth. Make sure that Bluetooth is switched on, and you want to search for devices, turn your controller on, and it should be a simple case of putting that into pair mode. So that's flashing away. Set it scanning. Okay, so it's found the Xbox wireless controller. I don't know how you get it to connect to that. So is that... Well, that's still not connected. Bluetooth is on. I've used this controller on various other devices. There it is again on the list. So why will it not connect? Connected devices, no. So that's something I'm going to have to check out. It does work. I have seen other people use it. These controllers are fantastic for compatibility with lots of things. A little bit of a disappointment there. So that is a quick roundup. Actually, it's quite a lengthy roundup of the Anbernic RG35XXH. This is the newer model. It's got the same specs as the RG35XX Plus and the forthcoming RG35XX 2024 model will also have, I think, the same specs. So a really fantastic device. I went for this one because I particularly wanted thumbsticks and I wanted a device in this orientation rather than candy bar. It's a solid device. The buttons are fantastic. The sticks are amazing. I was a little concerned at how raised the D-pad and the face buttons were when I first got it, but it absolutely works fantastically. I've just shown you all of the different systems that it can run or can currently run. This could change if you've got different ROMs, or if they give you a firmware update, or if you tweak RetroArch to use a different core possibly. But out of the box with the stock firmware, this is the experience you get from an RG35XXH, and what an amazing device it is. It plays everything except Saturn very well, but that may just be needing a little bit of a tweaking. PlayStation, Dreamcast, DS, all 8-bit and 16-bit consoles, absolutely superb. So I really do like it. I cannot find any downsides. If we talk about battery life, because it is one area that I haven't touched on, I have played with this for about a week. Out of the box, I haven't even charged it yet, so it looks as if it's about half full. I have thoroughly used this. Obviously I've just been messing around with it now. Battery life, it's supposed to reach 6-7 hours. I can see that easily doing it. Obviously that depends on the level of game you're playing. A PlayStation 1 game is going to run heavier than a Game Boy game and therefore affect battery life. But there you go, a look around my latest purchase, an Anbernic RG35XXH. Absolutely superb device. I've been looking at buying an emulation device for quite some time, but nothing really piqued my interest. I needed one to have sticks, and this came up. It's not the most powerful device. There are plenty of others on the market, but they also command a bigger price. You can pick this up for about £45 to £60, and it is absolutely worth every single penny. So I hope you like that review. I will be checking out some of the custom firmwares at some point, but that is a stock RG35XXH. Let me know what you think. I highly recommend it. Link, like, subscribe, enjoy.